Okay, good evening, everybody. So we will keep going, studying the Abraham's course, Abraham's family, and Jacob's course now. So we are in here, foundation of substance, which had to be made by Jacob and Esau, right? Then this is a simple diagram again. This Abraham's family is the third family, starting from Adam and Noah and Abraham. Then Isaac inherited the Abraham's mission. So then Isaac became a central figure. Then he and Abraham is kind of one from a God's viewpoint. So then they were able to restore the foundation of faith. So based on that foundation, then Isaac's two sons, Jacob and Esau, they were supposed to restore the foundation of faith, foundation of substance, right? So then Jacob is a younger son, Esau is the elder son. Then Jacob as a younger son, so his position was Abel's position, and Esau's position was Cain's position, right? So therefore, this is a formula that the Esau, who is standing in the Cain's position, he has a responsibility to remove his fallen nature, which was inherited by the Satan. That's above Cain's Satan. Satan's nature standing in the Satan's side. Then as Lucifer felt the person who stand in the Cain's position, they are always put in the position that they may feel the lesser love or jealousy toward their Abel figure. So that's their responsibility to overcome it. And Jacob, Abel's position, so he is a central figure to restore the foundation of the substance. All right, so now, we've been talking about this, the relationship between Jacob and Esau. And divine principle explained the Jacob's mission like this. Basically, divine principle divided his mission into three stages. First one is, right, Jacob should fulfill the indemnity condition to restore the position of Abel, the central figure of the substantial offering. So we've been talking about this stage now, maybe last 2 times. Then after this one was accomplished, then so like the next mission is Abel, the Jacob should make the substantial offering. So actually, this is the unity between Jacob and Esau, which was accomplished later on. Then after that, another mission was, so he should enter Egypt to consummate or commence the 400-year course of indemnity. So, that's basically the Jacob's mission. And of course, we have been talking about this indemnity conditions to restore the position of Abel, the first stage. This first stage also could be divided into these three. This is also according to the divine principle, right? So this, what kind of indemnity conditions he had to make in order for him to stand Abel's position were these three. So first one is restore the birthright from the elder son. Then the second one is 21 years in Haran, 20-year indemnity course in Haran. Then number 3 is wrestling with the angel, right? So then after he fulfilled all these indemnity conditions, then Jacob became the qualified Abel, and as the qualified Abel, then Jacob saw Esau, and Jacob and Esau were able to unite, successfully, right? Victorious unity there. So if we use the terminology of the divine principle, that is the successful substantial offering. Substantial offering, Cain, Abel unite. So Abel would be the successful substantial offering. Okay, so go back to this one, number one. We are still talking about this one, right? So last week we went through this one. What happened with the Jacob and Esau, especially this one, number two, right? Jacob received the blessing from his father. So that we read the Bible, how that happened. And obviously that Jacob and Rebekah, Jacob's mother, got blessing by deceiving Jacob's father, Isaac, Rebekah's husband, Isaac, right? So then toward the end, I talked about this one. So what's this? Basically, we are talking about this deception. Was this deception necessary? Then basically, my said, that was not necessary or destined to do it. Deception. Actually, the reason why I wanted to talk about that is basically I wanted to talk about this point. That's when we apply the Jacob's course. Jacob's course is a victorious course, a very important course. And then we have to learn a lot from Jacob's course, right? But one thing, maybe already I talked about this last week, that Jacob's deception was not completely God's original plan. So it is pretty much important to understand that, because if we understand that is a necessary cause or a completely justified cause as God's plan, then we may have the concept of this: the purpose justifies the means. So if you have a right purpose, then so you may do the unprincipled things, then that would be justified. So why I want to say this? Because we have lots of kind of issues about this kind of concept, not only us, in the world, So, but I going back to this issue later on, because I not only this issue, but I want to talk about this one too. So able figure, I don't know if this is a good expression, but this is something I wanted to say. Eventually, able figure does not need to give any challenge to Cain in order to help him grow. So that's maybe not so easy to understand, this expression. But I'm going to come back here later on after we study the Jacob's course more. All right. So again, this the Jacob and the Rebekah deceived the Isaac and received the blessing, right? So then the father talked about this a lot. Why did God allow Jacob to do it? Yeah. So obviously God allowed it. Then they did it. Then that why we can say God allowed it, because we know that God blessed Jacob, right? So that's a very important thing. God blessed Jacob, even he was a deceiver from the secular point of view. Well, actually, nobody knew what was the Jacob's mission up until today, until the divine principle revealed the Jacob's mission very clearly from a principled viewpoint, right? Basically, nobody really understands what Jacob did, why Jacob did this, right? So even I say that deception was not 100% necessary thing. However, God blessed Jacob, and God allowed Jacob and Rebekah to do this, like the deceiving their father Isaac and receive the blessing, right? So why did God allow Jacob to do it? Okay, this is today's kind of main thing. All right, so we're gonna read their true parents, true father's word a lot today. Okay, starting from this one. If Jacob had not had cooperation from his mother, the history of Israel could not have taken place. So Rebekah, talking about the Rebekah, right? What did Jacob's mother do? In order to fulfill the will of God, she went to extreme measures, right? That means deceiving his husband, her husband, and deceiving, her husband Isaac, Jacob's father, right? That's father said that's extreme measures. She went to extreme measures in order to fulfill the will of God, deceiving her own husband and her elder son, thus allowing Jacob to be in a position where he could fulfill his mission from God. So if she, at that moment, if she and Jacob didn't do anything, then the Esau would receive the blessing from Isaac, right? So then, if that happened, then they kind of finished. They could not move on if that happened. So if Esau was not supposed to receive the blessing from Isaac, Jacob is the chosen one. He was supposed to receive God's blessing, right? So that should happen. So in that situation, then that at the time, right, the things are the situation they had was a very desperate, critical situation. Then actually, Rebekah knew that. Rebekah was serious enough to fulfill God's will. She was very serious. That's why. So that then she at the time she had no other way, no other choice but doing such extreme measures, right? So that is the situation. So otherwise, God's providence would finish at that moment, right? So, have you ever heard of someone trying to buy the birthright from his elder brother? From a secular point of view, Jacob's mother was a liar, and Jacob himself was a swindler. The Bible records these things very clearly, as well as the fact that God glorified and blessed them, right? This has been a puzzle for Bible students. So Bible very clearly described that Jacob and Rebekah, they deceived Isaac. So they are liars from their secular point of view. Then why God blessed them? The Bible, you see, it is very clear too that the God blessed Jacob who deceived his father. So that what is going on? That's what the father is talking about this. Of course, the divine principle, I explained it, but the father is talking about this more deeply, right? Satan is the master of this world. So the satanic world is in the elder brother's position of holding sovereignty. Right? This is an elder brother and the younger brother's relationship. If you confront Satan and inform him you have come to take over his world, will he just drop it and leave it to you? Of course not, right? Of course not. So then instead you say that you will take back the world in the same way that the Satan first stole it. So like that's an interesting expression. It is only logical. Satan took the world without God's permission. So you do not need Satan's permission to take it back to God. That's interesting, yeah? Right? How did Satan take the world? First, he lied to his own father, God, and to Adam, deceiving father and son. Furthermore, through Eve, Satan deceived the husband. In the process of the fall, God and his daughter were separated when she became a betrayer. So that's a fall of man. Father was talking about, how the fall of man happened. So Satan Satan, he lied to his own father, Lucifer's father, God, and to Adam, right? So deceiving he deceived God and God's son Adam, and he took Eve. Then so Eve and God's relationship was cut off, separated, right? So that is a fall of man. Therefore, so God could take the reverse course. In restoration, the reverse way is necessary. So God and his daughter must be united. So God and his daughter, Eve, was cut off by Satan. So in the restoration, God and his daughter must be united. In other words, women should be united with God. Satan and women united in the fall and took Adam, right? That's a fall of man, and took Adam and all things of creation away from God. In restoration, God and women unite to take the husband and all things of creation back to God. So this is another whole story here. So how important the woman is, that was the woman's history was not so obviously revealed in the Bible. Only a few places Bible described about the woman, like Rebekah, here, or Sarah, or Rachel, those incredible women, other women like Naomi, or what I forgot, some women, including Jesus' mother. Okay, but the woman's mission is very important. Woman, always critical moment, the woman showed up, right? So that's a woman. Yeah. Okay, that was the position of Jacob and his mother. So Jacob and his mother, Rebekah. Rebekah is that kind of woman, right? Rebekah was that kind of woman, very important woman. So here, mother and son united with God to cut the fallen tie, which in this case was to the husband and to the son, who was on the satanic side. So in this moment, even though Isaac was such a faithful man, but in the restoration, then Isaac and the elder son Esau was standing the satanic side. This is the father's explanation. Then the Rebekah and the Jacob is God's side. God was working through the Rebekah and the Jacob to cut off the tie with Satan. So basically what they have to do is restore the Isaac and Esau to their God's side, right? So that is the Rebekah and the Abel's Jacob, who are standing the Abel's position. So now Father said, the true Father said, now you understand why that process was acceptable in the sight of God. So Father said, so Father was like describing that at the fall of man, Satan deceived their father and son. Satan took the God's daughter, from God. So that's why, in the restoration course, so God could do such things Father was saying. The reverse cause, the reverse cause. However, okay, that's very interesting. That's how can I say? Father did not say that is the 100% necessary destined cause. Okay, that's what Father said. Why God was able to accept such a way, right? So why that process was acceptable in the sight of God. So even the deception is not good. Deception is not good, right? However, in that incredible critical moment, there was no other way. If they did not do anything, then Satan take everything. So at that kind of in that kind of situation, then God basically uses some kind of condition, like a claiming some kind of a condition, so that God can proceed His will, through the Rebekah and Jacob. Satan wants to claim. Not Satan. God always try to find the condition that He can use, right? So that in this case, okay, God was saying, okay, you did this, you deceived the Father and Son. That's why I'm gonna do that same thing in order to restore, right? That's like many times God tried to find out that kind of condition that so He can use in order to proceed via God's providence. Even though this is not the best way, however, in this kind of critical situation, that's so that God allowed them to do it. Then still God can claim it for God's, right? So that's why Father said, Father explained the divine principle from their principle perspective, why this kind of extreme measure or extreme way to restore the birthright was acceptable in the sight of God. So, that's because this is such a sensitive story, therefore Father tried to explain, okay, looks like not good, deceiving people not good, right? So however, God accepted it. So God allowed them to do it because Satan did that same thing in the beginning. That's why God was able to use that kind of method in order to restore the things that was lost to Satan, right? So that is the true Father's explanation. So I don't know if it's kind of like getting too deep. I don't know, but I think that's this is a very important story. Okay, so they continue. Their first task was the restoration of the birthright of the elder son. Okay, we know that already. Why was this necessary? Father is explaining. The elder son's position is always that of master or dominator, which was the right and the authority bestowed on the eldest son. And that's the eldest son's position. In biblical history, the family heritage always passed from elder son to elder son. Since the elder son's position was stolen by Satan, God used Jacob to restore that position by taking it back. Okay, this is a principle. So just true Father is explaining the principle, the position of elder son and the younger son, right? Abel and Cain's position. By restoring the elder son's position, Jacob could restore dominion over all things and over men. Since Jacob totally united with God, once he could take the position of elder son, he completed God's sovereignty, ending the satanic rule. So, since Jacob totally united with God, then he totally united with God, and once he could take the position of elder son, right? The mission of the Jacob, or mission of the person who stand the Abel's position, who is the younger son or second son, right? So that Abel's responsibility is unite with God, right? Totally unite with God. Then the person need to take the elder son's position, right? Elder son's position is that the elder position is that has the complete inheritance from the father, So elder son is the one who take everything, all their possessions, the authorities and everything, right? That's elder son's position. Yeah. So what God, but from the fall, from the time of the fall, elder son is always Satan's side. Satan has a dominion. Satan became the ruler of this world. Satan is controlling this world through what? Through the elder son, generation to generation. So Satan was able to keep his sovereignty because he was always having dominion over the first son. So what God has to do is using the second son, who is not, second son, who was not so attractive from their Satan's viewpoint. Second son is closer to God, who has nothing, no right of inheritance, right? Not so important. That's Abel's position, second son position. But the second son, Abel, is the central figure of God's providence, right? Not the first son. First son is always Satan's side. Second son is the central figure. Second son, who has nothing, is a central figure. So now that second son's mission is unite with God 100%, like Jacob. Father said, since Jacob totally united with God. Jacob, second son, who had nothing, completely united with God. Then his mission is uniting with God, keeping the faith in God all the time, then restore the position of elder son. Now that the God's person, Jacob, or Abel figure, has the right of the inheritance and have the authority to dominate everything, right? So that then in that case, his territory, or like a Jacob's territory, Jacob's family and the Jacob's tribe is now God's tribe officially, because God is the one who completely united with God, and he officially has the right to control and dominate his family and the tribe, not his elder brother Esau, Jacob, right? So then that area is became the family or tribe under God's sovereignty. That's how that's the only way that God could separate that family or tribe from the satanic sovereignty or Satan's influence. Okay? So that is the Jacob's mission, right? So Jacob had such an important mission, Okay, so then he did it basically. So that's still like the story continue, but that was what Jacob did. By Jacob's cutting off the satanic line, restoring the elder son's position to God, and creating a tribe and the people, God finally had the territory and the people he could claim. This is why God gave Jacob the name Israel, which means victor. So Jacob was able to do that, right? So that, that we need to know how important that is. I mean, that is the Jacob's mission. Then he basically understood that. Then especially Rebekah, she knew that God's will, very well, right? So from the beginning. So that Rebekah's understanding, starting from the Jacob and Esau were in her womb. God told her very clearly, right? Jacob is going to rule over this, his elder brother. So, that then Jacob had such a mission. God loved Jacob, right? That's why Rebekah loved Jacob, always loved Jacob. And she knew God's will, basically. So then one time, so then as we already read in the Bible, one time when Jacob and Esau were around 40 years old, then Jacob bought the birthright from Esau, right? So why he did that? Because Jacob had certain understanding, about his mission, right? That's because almost obviously that Rebekah taught him, Rebekah's education to the Jacob. So Rebekah had such an important mission, and Rebekah had very clear understanding of their God's providence. Not like us, though. Of course, she did not know the divine principle, but so she knew that Jacob's mission. What was Jacob's mission? So Jacob understood something about it, then Jacob did it. Jacob bought the birthright from his elder brother Esau. Then the Bible clearly said, and the divine principle also clearly said that Jacob valued the birthright, and the elder brother Esau did not value the birthright. So that's the quality. We can see the different quality of these two boys. Okay, 40 years old men, not the boys anymore. They are the grown-up men. All right. So then now time has come that the Isaac was about to give the blessing to Esau. Then that should not happen, right? That should not happen. That's why. So that Rebekah became desperate. I'm saying this one because I kind of like want you to understand the situation more like a visually, or understand the situation, So that's not now. Actually, that's according to the Reverend Jackson and some other sources. Then when Jacob received the blessing from Isaac, he was about 76, 77, right? That means like, after, so he bought the birthright from Esau, already 30 years, more than 30 years have passed. So then during that time, so Rebekah and Jacob, they knew what they had to do. But actually, there was not so successfully, the moving, that their plan or that they wanted to achieve it. They knew God's will, but that was not really, going so good. So therefore, then now Isaac is now giving their blessing to their Esau. Oh my God, right? When Rebekah had that, oh my goodness, what should I do? Became desperate. She became desperate. So then she said, okay, so Jacob, you obey me. You do what I do, right? So the Bible described pretty like in detail. Okay, you follow me. You do what I said to Jacob. Then Jacob said, oh, that's too dangerous. I may not receive the blessing. Instead, I may get cursed from my father, right? Then Rebekah said, okay, if that happened, all the curse is on me. I will take a responsibility, right? That's why you just do it. So that means that is Rebekah's determination. That is Rebekah's incredible the commitment for their God's will. No matter what, we will do it. No matter what. I may be cursed, but in the worst case, then that's fine. But she was ready. She was ready. So she really wanted to fulfill the will of God. Then that means that Jacob is the one who should gain the blessing from Isaac and keep their God's tradition. Tradition that Abraham had and Isaac had. Then Jacob is the one who keep that tradition correctly, not the Esau. So that Rebekah knew it, right? So that kind of, when they face that kind of incredible, intense situation, then the Rebekah did that. Rebekah and Jacob, deceived their father Isaac. Then God, they received their blessing. Basically they received the blessing by deception, right? So the reason why God allowed them to do is, that just like Father said, that God has a certain condition that he can claim, so like that his people can also do this way in this kind of desperate situation. In this way means deceiving their father. Because Satan deceived God, because Satan deceived Adam, because Satan deceived Eve, so in secular, in regular, our norm, that deceiving is not good, but God allowed them to do in this desperate kind of situation, right? Otherwise, God lose everything. God lose everything. So, okay, so that is a kind of like a situation they had, yeah. Okay, another word. This is also to parents' word. I don't know how much you can go. Several times Jacob used deception to attain some goal. In order to deceive his own father, he used the kid skin to imitate his brother Esau, who was a very hairy man. Jacob came into his father, who was practically blind, and let him touch his arms. And because he convinced his father he was Esau, Jacob received the blessing in place of his brother. Already we know that story, right? How could such a deception be accepted in the word of God? Yeah, so that's, Father is like posing the question, right? Because that's kind of, I think we need to really understand why such deception be accepted in the word of God. No one has understood this. According to the principle of creation, only the eldest son can receive the inheritance. Therefore, in order to attain the inheritance of God, Jacob had to move into the eldest son position. Okay, so this is he's explaining about Abel's responsibility. Jacob was not practicing outright deception. He had already bought the birthright when Esau was very hungry. Right? That's, he already bought it a long time ago, and carelessly sold his birthright. Esau, who carelessly sold his birthright to his younger brother, Esau, right? Is this English? Oh, yeah. When Esau was very hungry and carelessly sold his birthright to his younger brother for a pot of lentils. In reality, Esau had already lost his birthright, Father said, because he didn't care enough about it. So, Esau already lost it in a spiritual sense. He sold it already, and he didn't care about it. So he has no right to claim it anyway, But in the physical reality, that did not happen. So, but so the father was saying that Jacob had the right to do it. Yeah. So that is this is another kind of aspect. Already, as the Bible said, Esau despised the birthright, and the divine principle also said Esau did not care about it. Esau did not value his birthright. So that is Esau's internal situation, that who knew the value of the birthright? The Jacob, right? There's internal difference between the Jacob and Esau. That's also the things that Jacob had a right to receive the birthright. So Father is saying, so he could do that because actually Esau did not have a right already, because he sold it to Jacob long time ago, right? That's another aspect that God could claim it, the birthright. Okay, God knew the will of God and God's dispensation. and he wanted to become the heir who could receive the inheritance. The Bible speaks of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not Esau, not the God of Esau, but the God of Jacob, right? So that this is their God's point of view. So Jacob knew the will of God, and the Rebekah knew the will of God. So therefore, with that kind of motivation, so they did that. All right, this is so because Jacob was right there to receive the inheritance in order to win that position unselfishly for the fulfillment of the will of God. He had to bring himself to the elder son's position. So he had to bring himself to the elder son's position. That is his mission. So he had that desire, very strong desire, but that desire was not selfish. That is unselfish desire, or that is the desire to fulfill God's will. Right? That is a desire to fulfill God's will. He was desperate, and especially Rebekah was desperate to fulfill God's will. That's why they did that. You know, so like when we understand this, then right, basically we have a two kind of view. The reason why God allowed them to do it, you know, even they deceived their own father, you know, and husband. So that why that is acceptable for God, you know, why that is acceptable in the word of God, and the two reasons. Right? One is from the principle viewpoint, you know, then in the beginning, Satan deceived God and his son Adam. Therefore, including Eve. Therefore, you know, then from God's side, so they could do that. You know, then God could say, okay, you did it. That's why I did it too. You know, you stole the things, everything from me. That's why like now that we deceived you, then get everything back, you know, to God's side. Right. So that kind of, you know, that's a principle viewpoint. But the internally, right? Jacob's motivation and the Rebekah's motivation was with God, not the Satan. No Satan, right? Their heart is not satanic. Means their heart, their motivation, their mind was not selfish. If their motivation is selfish, then God can take it. Then the Satan will take it, right? Then the Satan will not allow, you know, this kind of things. And then God may not be able to claim it if Jacob's motivation and Rebekah's motivation was selfish, like usually people think that way, you know? People think that way, right? The people who study the Bible, they usually, they could not see this kind of insight because they, you know, usually people do not understand the God's providence and the secret of the God's providence or a secret principle behind the human history. You know, they could not see it. So then from people's regular viewpoint, Jacob and Rebekah was selfish. They have a selfish greed. Then based on that, the selfish greed, they deceived their father. You know, so that might be the regular people's viewpoint. However, so that the reason why God said he is the God of Jacob, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Why? Because the Jacob, when he did that, with Rebekah, Jacob's motivation was with God, was not selfish, not the Satan's. Jacob's motivation was good, you know, God's center, right? Thinking about God's will. Right? Otherwise, God cannot claim it, you know. So there are always basically two reasons. Principle, you know, from one is a principle viewpoint, and another one is internal viewpoint, which is the motivation, you know, heart or mind, you know, selfish or God-centered, self-centered or God-centered, you know. So that is the important part. All right. So anyway, that is the story of today. The next week we talk about the Rebekah a little bit more, and we're going to talk about interesting Isaac's reaction about this one. Well, we really did not know what was Isaac's reaction, but actually we can kind of see very interesting attitude Isaac had after he was deceived by Rebekah and Jacob. You know, that's pretty interesting. All right, so okay, that is the story next week.